Good afternoon and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits, the show that aims at shedding the light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black excellence. To talk and represent Black excellence tonight, we have two young and not gifted, super gifted actors who are currently starring in The Covenant. They are JADE PAYTON and Chaundre Hall-BrooMFIELD. Welcome to My Harlem Portraits.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
So, as I said, you are starring in the world premiere of the Roundabout Theater Company's The Covenant, which is currently running off Broadway at the Black Box Theater and is been extended already a couple of times till through December 17 now. It's written by York Walker, who is debuting in New York with this play, and directed by Tiffany NICHOLE GREENE, and counts with an exceptional cast that includes, apart you two, Crystal Dickinson as Mama, Ashley HILDRETH as Violet, and Lark White as Ruthie. So first of all, I want to congratulate you because I saw it and I was absolutely impressed by the amount of concentration that you must need to gather the strength to get into another person's essence when you have all the eyes of the public on and around you, because it's a small theater, it's a very intimate theater. How do you do that? JADE?
Mostly, one, I think that we have a wonderful play. I think we worked together so well and we're so tuned into each other that we're really able to lean on each other as support in those moments where maybe the audience is a little unpredictable in their response. We've definitely been surprised by the way the audience's response is involved in the direction of the play. Like, it becomes part of the rhythm of the storytelling. So I think the biggest thing is not to fight it, is to embrace what they're giving you on any given night. Sometimes it's quiet, intent listening. Sometimes it's very vocal and participatory response. And, you know, allowing those cues to be listened to just as much as the actors on stage is so important, because if you're not paying attention, all of a sudden your line comes in, you know, the middle of an uproarious laugh that you weren't tuned into. And that does happen sometimes. You can't always catch the wave at the right time. But for the most part, it's an extra tuning in and also just an embracing of everybody in the room at that time.
Wow.
And I also think that focus has a large part. You know, what am I focusing on? Am I in the scene thinking about what the audience is doing, or am I looking at my scene partner in the eyes? Am I thinking about what I'm trying to get them to do, think, say, believe, or feel? And the same way, you know, driving, it takes practice. When you're on the road, you're not paying attention to everything that's happening on the road. You're paying attention to the information that you need to safely operate your vehicle. So I think with practice, we tune in to the information that we need, and are also flexible to when things are changing, like Jada said, when there's uproar, when there's silence and intent listening, and practice.
Yeah, it must be, but that was my first reaction when I saw this. I said, wow, because this is an extremely intense play, extremely intense, and it's so many things happening, unexpected things happening, that, I mean, I was really, this was a fantastic play. So congratulations, you.
Oh, man.
Incredible. And I was telling that I was there that night that the microphones were not working.
Oh, wow.
You didn't need the microphones. You didn't need anything. It was just great. It was perfect as it was.
Thank you so much. Wow.
So to both of you again, from your own perspective, what is this play about? And the character you play, who is the character? Because I didn't mention them.
Jay?
I think I play the character Avery in Covenant. I think Avery's journey throughout the play and what the play is about from Avery's perspective is really someone who is on the brink of self-discovery, someone who is so curious about what the world has to offer her, but is fearful about leaving what she knows. Even if what she knows has restricted her in some way, it's at least familiar, it's at least predictable. And so I think the play is about her taking chances to figure out more about herself, and for better or for worse, you know, to not give away too much. But yeah, that's what I would say Avery's kind of journey is in the play. She wants to know more about herself, and she's willing to make some bold moves to get there.
Yes, definitely bold moves. And so what about you, Chandre? What do you think the play is about? And who are you in the play?
I play Johnny Honeycomb, and I think that the play in general is a play about people with secrets and history that is not said, that is not on the surface of who they present themselves to be. And it is a play that I think encourages bias to be looked at, bias in yourself, biases of society and whatever boxes we put people into, and can be a play that encourages empathy and the fact that we are who we are because of a series of events in life that people may never see. We are not just one moment. We are a series of moments, you know? And I think that in Johnny's case, Johnny is a character that grew up being a certain way. And so when he comes back home and he's a different person, people create all of this narrative without ever talking to him about who he is and what he's connected to. And whether or not it's true or not, I think, again, this is a play that challenges people to take a second look at your bias, because you don't know the fullness of anybody.
Yeah. And you in the play, tell us a little bit, you are boyfriend and girlfriend, ex-boyfriend and girlfriend. You can say that because it's been said in the paper, so it's not, it's not a secret.
We play best friends, childhood best friends. Avery is kind of the one person that I connect to in the town that we grew up in. And I don't want to say anything more than that, really, if people still planning on seeing the show. But do you have anything else to add, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting you talked about, you know, people's biases going into the play. I think that seeing the two of us together on stage, there is a bias toward romance, towards seeing the love story in this, towards boy meets girl, towards happily ever after. Mm-hmm. And I think that the realness and the nuances in Johnny and Avery's friendship and love for each other challenges those biases and challenges people to not follow the tropes necessarily. I think the play does that really well. And yes, absolutely, the way we're first presented, I think anybody in the audience would be like, oh, you know, I want these two to be endgame. And I think that allowing human complexity to come in and all the nuances of different types of love to come in really deepens your understanding as these two, as a couple, as friends, as people in general. It's yeah, it's a lovely type, it's a lovely, very human relationship to get to be able to play on stage.
Yeah, and very difficult for you because you play also another role in the end. I mean, you play yourself, but you are a different yourself, and it's incredible because the public is like, wow, what's happening there? It's really fantastic. So another thing, this play is produced as part of the Roundabout's new play in Roundabout Underground. It's a new initiative, which is now in the 16th season,
Mhm.
and is aimed of discovering new writers, new actors, and producing their New York debut. As far as you personally are concerned, how this initiative modify, change, or reflect in your life and in this work you're doing? Jade.
I will say, a lot of us are having a first-time experience with this play. And I can't think of anyone more deserving than York Walker to be able to share his work in this way. You know, I tear up thinking about it because there are so many talented artists and skilled artists and dedicated artists who don't have the platform to be seen. You know, they're the most talented person in the 10 people they know. And so I think it's incredible that there's such a focus on discovering new works and fully supporting and producing them. Even this play is an ambitious play, despite those resources, you know, and I think that we made something really incredible that was uncompromised on, especially by our director, Tiffany, as well, to really, you know, give this brand new piece of art the best leg to stand on its first showing to the world. So it's amazing to be a part of something like that. I think it's really cool. And I benefit from that as well. This is my off-Broadway debut as well. You know, this push for newness is incredible to me. And I'm not new to this, but, you know, I'm new in this regard. So I feel very grateful to benefit from that initiative. And I think lots of artists will benefit from it as well.
Yes. And you, Chandra?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that we live in a world and an industry where good art isn't always necessarily marketable. So what we see on the biggest platforms isn't exactly the most moving or the most thought challenging or emotionally provoking. So the fact that this historical and prestigious theater, the Roundabout, takes time and invests money into art that does not have to be encumbered by the idea of we have to make sales. You know, I think it's a beautiful thing to be a part of, because this show, for me, when I got the audition, I said, this is the best piece of writing I've gotten as an actor, as a side, in years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got the role, I got the audition. I said, I want to play this part, you know, and I'm willing to learn guitar for it. I'm willing to commute for it, because I'm so artistically fulfilled. This is a very artistically fulfilling experience, and not just the work, but to work with my fellow cast members. This is truly a special group.
And you are not new to this genre, to the theater, because the theater, although you're most famous for your TV shows, I'm gonna talk about that, you started your career in theater with Raisins in the Sun, right?
That was something that I did at the Guthrie Theater last year. But I trained at SUNY Purchase. I trained in acting at SUNY Purchase, graduated in 2017, and I've done some other theater work. I made my off-Broadway debut, well, not debut, but I was understudying a play by Dominique Maruso and some other things. So Dominique Maruso was a writer of Pipeline at Lincoln Center.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
It was fantastic.
Brilliant production. Learned so much from the cast and being able to just study under them. And so Raising in the Sun is not my first, but it's definitely a highlight.
So tell me a little bit, since we are talking about career, tell me a little bit about your plays, because you were in Luke Cage, which was fantastic. And of course, I'm in Harlem, so everybody watch Luke Cage, didn't miss one episode of it. You were in Kingdom Business, Law and Order, FBI. Between your career in film and in TV and theater, where were the best moments and the most difficult moments in theater and in TV?
I think that theater and TV and film, they're different sides of the same coin. I don't think that my work ever changes. The arena that I'm in changes. And I always say when I'm done with a TV gig, I say to my agents, find me a play to do. Because I think in theater, that's where you get to really delve into the craft of it. You get to work on something, you get to collaborate and explore. And then what's dope about TV and film is that you then have to take your craft and trust it. You just have to show up on set and accomplish. There's no director working with you on choices, or they're expecting you to show up and get the job done. So in terms of challenges, I think, the challenges that you think come with theater and film and television. It's just, how do I navigate my craft in each different arena? If that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely. And same question to you, Jade, because you also did some film, some television in Glamorous, Dynasty, iZombie, and in theater you did King Lear, and An Ideal Husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I miss something, let me know.
No, that's great. I think that the most difficult part of this has been balance. And I think, like Chaundre said, I'm only just now learning that voice of, doing a TV gig and then get me some theater, because I had an acting teacher in school talk about how film is instant craft, meaning you're not going to have that rehearsal. You're not going to have that collaboration, that table work a lot of the time. You're going to have moments where you just better show up on your mark and be able to deliver. And that's a great skill to develop and, really massage. But on the other hand, it's nice to get into the rehearsal room and really, dive deep about some things. So I would love to diversify those things even more, to be able to do more theater, because that's what's been missing for me in the last couple of years. But man, it's been a ride, and I'm happy. I'm so grateful for all the steps along the way. Even if I'm looking for more or different or better or whatever you want to call it, each part of it has been integral to my career development.
If you had to tell the people to come and see this play, what would you say? Why would you say they should come and see this play? Chaundre.
I think Jade has something on the tip of her tongue.
I will say that I think the broadest and still the most poignant thing is that when you leave this play, you're not leaving empty-handed or empty-headed. I think this play is worth seeing for the reasons that Chaundre mentioned before, challenging bias, for seeing the humanity in mistakes, seeing how people become how they are. I think it's an incredible, thought-provoking, and heart-pulling 90 minutes of art. It's a great way to spend a Wednesday night, to be honest. You know what I mean? I've had people come up afterwards, they were like, I didn't even know what I was getting into. All of this. And I think it's a jam-packed human experience, to be honest. I think you're not going to leave with nothing to say or nothing to feel or nothing to think. And I think ultimately that's the most rewarding part of being able to do theater.
Right.
Ditto, 100%. 100%. I think that art has a responsibility of doing one of two things: helping people escape from the world, or helping people see the world in which they live. And right now, again, going back to this idea of marketing and things needing to entertain people being the priority, I think that this is a play that does both. It entertains people and then also leaves them with a clear vision and view of the world in which they live, and creates more empathy for their fellow human being.
During this show, in particular, which have been the most challenging moments and which have been the most rewarding moments for you, both as personally or as a cast?
I think for me, something rewarding is working with a writer up front on a new play for the first time in my career. That is definitely a big first for me. And seeing his face light up when he gets to see what he's written come to life. And in a way that he never even imagined, you know, that is very fulfilling for me. I've always spoken another writer's word, but not being able to be in rehearsal and go to them and be like, what did you mean when you wrote this? Or what do you think about, you know, that type of collaboration I've never gotten to experience. So that has been very rewarding for me to bring to life something that he loves so much. And I'll leave that at the reward for now. I'll come back to a challenge later.
Okay. I gotta be honest, I think the challenge and the reward were very similar. I think it's so rewarding to get to do something brand new. And I think one of the biggest compliments I got while we worked on the play, having York in the room as the writer, was he said, you know, the Avery you're playing is not the Avery I wrote. And I took that as a compliment because he saw my interpretation, and the director saw my interpretation and decided, oh, wait, that's what we need. You know, we need that. And his openness to not kind of shoehorn me into his imaginary interpretation of the character, but allow me to take what he wrote and trust that it was so wonderful that even my differing interpretation could bring something valuable to it. And I think the most challenging part was not having that blueprint. You know, when you're doing Hamlet, you've had thousands of Hamlets to gather intel on, or there's this, and that can be a challenge as well, but there's some sort of expected way it goes. Some of the challenge here was building this character from scratch. There was no like, oh, did you see the production at the so-and-so, or when so-and-so did it, or the TV version, or whatever. Building this from scratch took intense concentration, a huge trust in myself and my ability, which I had to frankly regain during this process, which has been so wonderful. But the idea that there was no vision board to point to, that it was just simply what I walked in with and what we as a group decided was going to happen, and just trying to imagine the final product with no background, was challenging and rewarding. I would say it was two sides of the same coin. I left some days being like, wow, like this was made for me, like I'm nailing this, and other days like I have absolutely know what I'm doing, no idea, like I can't like call somebody and say, you've worked on Covenant, like what was it like for you? So I feel like it was the challenge and reward.
I never thought about that. That's very interesting. Very good angle. And what were your challenges, Sandra?
I think for me, my challenge was less creative and more so just my empathy for our world today. You know, there's a lot going on that is not ideal.
Yeah.
And I think that what challenged me at the beginning of this process when we started having audiences was that people would come out the theater and they would watch our show and they would see our behavior and they would hear the words that we spoke, and they saw what we they saw our truth that we brought to these characters. And sometimes people would still leave being like, I hated that person, or I hated that character. And so it was just challenging to be like, and that's, I think, part of the issue in the world right now.
Yes.
Is that people literally can't see beyond their view. They can't empathize or sympathize with another person. And so at first it was kind of heavy for me to walk out the show and people would still be like, I hated this character. I think I'm like, oh man, they missed it. But then eventually I had to understand that my job as an actor is to take the colors that have been presented to me, paint the picture, and put it up for other people to watch and look at. And maybe today they won't recognize what we were trying to get at, but maybe 2 years from now, we'll be sitting down and something will happen and they'll go, you know what, that reminds me of this play that I saw years ago. And even if it's that, I'm satisfied.
I never even thought that someone could go out hating any of the characters, because I felt the empathy behind each one of them, and also the reason why each one of them did whatever they did or didn't do. And I think it's presented with such a richness of details and nuances that I came out so enriched of this play. So, I mean, and the person I went to see it, it wasn't particularly someone who goes to the theater that often, but we spoke about the play for about an hour.
Mm. Mm.
That's a huge compliment. That really is.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful present, a gift of soul enrichment that we got, not only for the writing, but for the interpretation that you all gave of it. It was just
Wow.
very, very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for this. One last thing, because we are at the end of this. Yes. What's next for you? When this is over, what are you thinking about?
Mm.
One, I need to detox mentally, definitely. The subject matter and what this play requires of me, and all of us, of course, is so dense and so requires so much of you. You can't do this play halfway. That I need a little bit of a brain melting, softening holiday season. That's what's immediately next. But what this play has inspired me to seek next are works that move me, are not getting so caught up in the, you know, the machine of gig, and really trusting that my artistic sensibilities will lead me in this process, because it has been so rewarding. It's hard to imagine doing anything less. But, you know, not everything is going to top the last. But I think I'm reinforced in seeking art that truly moves me. So hopefully that's what continues to be next.
Thank you. Chandra?
First, I want to say I love the way that you phrased that question. Not what's next for you, but what are you thinking about next?